Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Strategic Feminine here on YouTube. And of course, I always tell y'all we like to focus on all things feminine, all things girly, all things womanly in essence. So if you're interested, do not hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the rest of the video. Everyone has been talking about this statue, grounded in the stars, that's in New York, Times Square. And this statue, it looks to be, quote unquote, the average Black woman. This statue has literally been tearing the internet to shreds. And I think that it's important for us this is not even important, y'all. This is really just banter. Like, this is just crazy. The fact of the matter that you have the internet literally tearing into a statue, an inanimate object. This is not and that's why I have such an issue, because a lot of people, of course, they're paying super close attention to the context. People don't understand that this is exactly what art is for. This is what artists do. This is why we have art, to invoke emotion, invoke conversation. And the fact of the matter is that this is what we invoke. This is what we have to say about our own statue. Really shows me that Black women are very, very, very far gone as far as when it comes to constructive criticism. I feel like on every corner of the internet, all I see is women trying to use this statue as a way to push their own agenda. And literally, it's just a statue. Like, it has no agenda. Maybe the artist had an agenda, but again, whatever you attach onto the statue is your own thing. So I'm going to go ahead and address some of the things I've heard about the statue and address what I feel about it. So a lot of people, of course, most of us agree that it is not a good look. As far as optics wise, no, you're trying to play in our face. I can admit to Black men, especially this particular artist, is trying to play in our face. Now, this artist is from the UK. I made another version of this video where I really didn't see the harm of the statue, and I still don't. I think a lot of us are placing harm on this statue. We are the harm, but inherently, the slab of brick, no, that's not the problem here. This statue is here to depict the average Black woman. And with this statue, I really do think it represents the average Black woman. I see this woman, this statue, in everyday life. So the fact of the matter is that you guys, I know also y'all have this experience too, whether it's because of the weight, whether it's because of the stance, whether it's because of the hairstyle, there's something very familiar about this Black woman. This is a very common face. And the fact that you feel so comfortable to bash it, to me, is very, very interesting, especially when I see it's mostly Black women. I can understand the subcontext. If there was any political undertone, I think that is inherently irresponsible. But on top of people attacking the statue for its physical attributes, I think that is wrong. Because not only is this statue, it's big, but it's not fat. It's not grotesque. This is a mid-sized statue. Stop doing that. What do I tell y'all? Stop doing that just because there's nothing else to compare them to. But I don't think the statue is fat. Now, is it bigger than me? Yes. Is it big, bad, grotesque? No. Is a normal, body type. Clearly, they can walk upstairs. I feel like people are so extreme on the internet. You know what I'm saying? You're high likely in America, not just, in the Black community, in America, to find somebody bigger than that statue on any given day, at any restaurant, at any age. So to act like this statue is inherently just negative because of the size is intellectually dishonest. That's not the biggest statue. It's not inherently negative. It's your own connotation. It's how you feel about that size. I don't agree with that. I think that statue does represent the average Black woman. I think that beauty is, there. Do I think they played it down? Absolutely. But this is not the only time that Black women specifically, have been in these major projects and their aesthetics are not all the way together. This is not the first time. I remember with The Little Mermaid, every other little, all of her sisters, they were dazzled, put in charms, had high ponytails, hair and makeup done to the T. And then when you look at Hailey Bailey, she just looked like, she didn't even look like she was the main character. So this is not we have a perpetual problem of letting other people undermine our beauty and then we support them. So I feel the same way with this statue. Now, Sinners comes into play with this whole situation because these are two separate art concepts launched at the same time by black men, whether unambiguous black men or mixed race black men. And these two art concepts have different ideas or archetypes of women, either within our spectrum or without our spectrum. And you see how they choose to represent themselves as men with options, as desirable men. But when it comes to us as their counterparts, whether on the global stage, we don't get that same respect or adoration. Now, this particular artist, Thomas J. Price, he has made other statues of black people before, all with different ranges of attractiveness. One thing I noticed, all the black men, they're not bigger. You know what I'm saying? All the black men tend to be smaller, skinnier, representing him in a, favorable light. You don't think that Ryan Coogler knows that every black man don't look like Michael B. Jordan? But that's their fantasy. That's their dream. So they maintain their desirability politics. Even if they don't call it desirability, even if they don't call it respectability, the black men know how to, make sure their selves are desirable. So why do you think with unambiguous black women, they just don't seem to have the same level of respect in their art? Questions. I have questions. I need them to be answered.
But they feel most comfortable with this type woman. If this image offends you, but you like Sinners, then you weren't paying attention. So let me walk you through it. In Sinners, the black woman that was one of Michael B. Jordan's love interests, despite never seeing him express actual love to her, was Annie, and she was also a mammy archetype. She wasn't desirable to any other man in the movie, not even Smoke, really, despite supposedly being his love interest. What she was his mammy. She was his worker. She was traditionally undesirable in that she also was a big, dark-skinned, overweight black woman. This is the archetype of the statue that's sitting over there in Times Square. Essentially, what black men are doing is showing you the type of black woman that they like. They're showing you the type of black woman that they are comfortable with. They are showing you a representative of a black woman archetype, one that's very well known, that they will settle for, that's safe for them, and that, to be honest, they will uplift. Why do y'all think that the depiction of black women wasn't one more like Megan Thee Stallion? Why do y'all think that? It's because the world, including black women, would have been outraged by that depiction. Black men don't like women like Megan because she represents an archetype that is a threat to him, but also the world. Megan is liberated, sexually and otherwise. She knows her value, and most importantly, she should know white women when it comes to look. If he had made a statue that looked more like Megan instead of a mammy, yes, black women would have still complained, but white women would have been outraged. White women and black men hate the Megan types. Again, Megan represents everything that is out of black men's control, while that statue and Annie depicts what black men can control, what's safe for them, and what they will settle for. Introducing Pearline from Sinners. Pearline was the Megan Thee Stallion type in looks and body. However, she was depicted as a sexually loose Jezebel that all men desired, could have her but couldn't keep her. She was also depicted as someone who wasn't even loyal to her own husband, that she was cheating on. This is how black men view attractive black women, so they would never depict black women as attractive in a movie or in a statue in Times Square. They would not, because this is the type of woman that they don't like. They see them as loose, disloyal, and accessible to any man who wants her. She's not for black men, not even her own husband. But she was also the direct competitor for the white woman. Looks wise, they were on the same level, two black men. She doesn't represent dedication to black men. She represents freedom, options, and independence.
Now, I've had the privilege of coming across this statue in my travels, and it's of Maggie L. Walker. This was the first black woman to ever own a bank, okay? This black woman is also bigger, just as big as the statue in Times Square, relative to scale, of course. But look at the statue. It's decked out. She was one of the richest women of her time, okay? So let's watch how you speak on the big black woman's name. I just wanted to say that for the girls. I think that there's more to read into outside of just it being the black woman's fault. You know how these creators, they have the same theme and run and joke of how no matter what it is, whether we're in control of the image or not, it's still our fault for being subjected to this type of representation when you have majority of people on my channel and otherwise that say this doesn't represent us. See, Maggie L. Walker to me represents smarts, talent, poise, fashion sense. She represents breaking through oppression and even in a super racist culture becoming one of the richest women to ever know her area. You know what I'm saying? To ever grace the land in her time period. You see what I'm saying? And I think that the statue in Times Square to me represents a social experiment. And unfortunately, Black women, you failed.
Fat, black, and ugly in Times Square is wild. Like, fat, black, and ugly in Times Square is wild. Fat, black, and ugly in Times Square is wild.
Referring to that statue as fat, black, and ugly.
Big behind, 12-foot, overweight Black woman in the middle of Times Square. That is what they chose to represent us? Like, that's what they think about us, y'all.
It's true that the statue is meant to represent Americans, the average American women, but for you to sit there and talk about why behind big black is outrageous.
Big, overweight, just, there's nothing attractive about the statue. There's nothing appeasing.
So big, overweight, and nothing is attractive. You mean to tell me that you don't think anybody who looks of that form or who looks of that nature is attractive? Like, you're really...
It's like this monster.
Now we're calling the statue a monster. Like, that's crazy. And this is supposed to be a representation of everyday people, of, you know, somebody you've met in your life. A monster? A motherfucking monster?
This monster of a Black woman who's dominating. Like, y'all know what it gives? This aggressive, overpowering, masculine Black woman. That's what the statue gives.
I agree with her right there. It does give, you know, masculine, it gives strong, it gives tired, it gives overwhelmed. I get that. That I definitely get. But for you to be so disrespectful about your delivery, like the whole big, fat, and ugly.
It does not give anything feminine, soft, strong, powerful, fit. No, it's a big, black, fat, overweight woman in the middle of Times Square to take pictures of.
Big, black, and ugly. It's as if you in your life don't know not a single soul that is built the way the statue is built. Like, you're really being inconsiderate here.
Y'all, they really be playing with us. And until we recognize what is happening out here, they're going to keep playing with us. They're going to keep playing with us because we play with ourselves. Baby, this is wild. Wild. Wild.
See, when I first seen the statue, I was like, damn, they playing with us OD. Like, they're really playing with us, because why is this woman so tired, so overwhelmed looking, so masculine looking, just out of it, looking down? It was just, you know, not a very uppity statue to me, you know. But I did my little research and I seen that the whole exhibit was supposed to convey empathy. You get what I mean? So if it's supposed to convey empathy, you're really not empathizing whatsoever, because I'm pretty sure there's mothers, sisters, aunts, grandmothers that look of that nature, that look like that statue. So for you to sit there and be so disrespectful about the build of the statue is just like, damn, you could have chose different words, like, to describe the statue. Pretty simple.
If you're looking at that statue, you look a little bit to the right, you will see a Beyonce ad. Mind you, we think Beyonce is perfect. But that's the whole point. People are complaining about the representation of the statue, and then you look to the right and there's representation of another kind of Black woman on the big screens in Times Square. Even more noticeable than the statue. And I just saw a video from the creator, Anna Rand, and the caption was, "God forbid a woman be attractive. God forbid Black women be attractive." And that bothered me because Black women look like that. And I've seen comments of Black women who were like, I look like this and I'm seeing all this racism about how I look. I know that hurts, but what has to hurt even more is when you see an influencer who is the beauty standard, basically saying you're the worst kind of representation of the Black community. People that look like you and you should not have a statue. And then people in the comments were like, oh, this is the nanny trope. Oh, no other race puts, other people that look like that in the forefront. Mind you, I just watched The Handmaid's Tale. The main character looks like a regular white woman. She's not thin. She's just a regular white woman, just like that statue is just a regular Black woman. We've had people like Tyra, Naomi, Beyonce, Jada Pinkett Smith, Gabrielle Union, et cetera, like to act like we've never had great representation is crazy. And it's crazy that white supremacists are saying like, this is hideous. And black people, black women, black influencers are agreeing with white supremacists. Do we not see what's going on here? And y'all are really making videos saying, agreeing with these people when we come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. Do I feel the statue is pointless? Yeah, I don't really get the point, but also it should not be the end of the world, and we should not have influencers saying like, this is the absolute worst representation of us, when there are also little black girls who look like that. I think we should just be a little careful with how we talk about things, because we can say that the statue is pointless and maybe we should, whatever, but.
The artist, Thomas J. Price, I want to give, I'm going to give you your flowers. For one, creating beautiful art, and for two, your art invoking the right conversations. Because this is actually insane. The discourse behind this piece in Times Square being unveiled, and the discourse from the people that look like, I'm floored. I'm so disappointed as well. I personally believe that this is a stunning piece. I love all of his work. Before he unveiled this, I was already tapped in because he does amazing work. And I'm seeing people saying that this isn't a representation of a strong black woman, yada, 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 saying this doesn't show strength. I seen somebody say this is like a caricature of like mammy material. And that's insane to me, because this is just a woman, a black woman on an average day. Maybe she just went grocery shopping. Maybe she just got the kids down for bed. Maybe she's just chilling. Maybe she don't have kids. Maybe she just chilling on a day off. She not all dialed up. She don't have her body revealed. She has the average size body. This is your auntie. This is your cousin. This is your mom on an average day. And a celebration of that. How is it not a celebration of that? I wonder what the fuck people said about the Mona Lisa. It said she was the most beautiful woman. You look at that and you's like, she look average as fuck, right? Right? Realistically, right? But people celebrated her. That's why she one of the most famous paintings of all time. Because she was celebrated. And she was average as fuck. He embodied an average black woman in America or anywhere on an average day without having to do too much, without being all glammed up, down up, just the average woman walking in the groceries, just the average woman. And this is a celebration of that, saying you don't have to do all of that to be seen and to be made into art. The fact that more of us aren't celebrating that and tearing it down, trying to make it seem like there's some type of other perpetuation of it. Like, no, your interpretation shows exactly what you lack and exactly how superficial and how you have completely adopted the standards that don't mean us no good. It's so many of us that look just like this, and y'all are just, wow. It's disgusting. Ew, boo, boo, boo. Tomato to motherfucking tomato.
They like to say this. We're not going to sit here and act like the statue shouldn't be there because it's plus size. I think that's a problem. Like, that whole rhetoric, that's a problem. If we have a problem with black women, being on the front line, we should have a problem with skinny black women being on the front line, big black women, slim, thick, BBL'd out. It doesn't matter. So we're not going to do that. Because I feel like some of y'all are losing the plot where you're saying, okay, well, if it was skinnier, I wouldn't mind. What about it being skinnier would have changed your mind about it? If you look at that statue and say, oh, it's something inherently political, sure. Now, I personally, this is why I really didn't want to talk about it. I've never been to New York. I don't know nothing about it. So I'm not too sure, keen on the area. I've heard a lot about Times Square, of course, everyone has. But I don't really know what's around New York. So that's one thing I would want to say, because I know Wall Street's down there. There's a lot of influential people that, stop by New York on a day-to-day basis. So I can understand people who may have frequented or know about New York or whatever. Maybe y'all understand a context that us as outsiders from America, like, we just don't know. Like, to me, I don't, like, if that statue was in my neighborhood, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But I could understand if the statue is in New York and you live in New York and you understand, like, the political parties that walk past it, like, if you're in that in crowd, then I understand why people in the back of their head say, no, I don't want to be attached to, this overweight black woman with an attitude. But for y'all to attribute this to be an overweight black woman with an attitude just shows how you think about black women overall. Because when I saw the statue, I didn't say that. I said, oh, that's, I could see the girls being mad because she kind of big, but she cute. She not ugly. So it's like, when y'all say this is undesirable, y'all got to be careful because who are you talking about? Nieces, nephews, sisters? Like, y'all are talking about people who really look so close to you phenotypically that it doesn't even make any sense. Like me, I can't talk any ish about the statue. Why? Because if I were to gain like 80 pounds, I would look just like the statue. And that's what y'all are not taking into account here. So before you down your own image or try to trash on the big girls, I understand y'all want to live in your skinny era, but that's one thing I will say. Like, I think the big women like slander that's been going on is so weird. Like, I don't feel the need to have this big backism that y'all have. Like, I think it was funny at first, okay, finally we can tell the truth because couldn't nobody say it, but now I think y'all are taking it too far, especially when you're provoking, a particular image. Now, that's what I feel about the women. As far as the men, right, I feel like they know what they're doing, okay? Because as Cynthia G pointed out, I just watched her video, y'all. As Cynthia G pointed out, there is no difference between the statue and Annie, which the whole movie theaters is sold out, okay? People are supporting this movie all around the country, left and right. So you can't say that you have a problem with the statue in New York, grounded in the stars, and not have a problem with Annie from the movie Sinners. And not only that, I feel like if you have a problem with creators saying that Wumi shouldn't have been the main lead, then you also are part of the problem too. Because a lot of black women, they're simply committed to, undermining our image, and they do it with the help of black men. I think that as far as like with Wumi was concerned in the Sinners movie and the parallels to the Grounded in the Stars statue, it shows that black men tend to only recognize a particular type of woman that hits in their particular type of, archetype. And my mama said something to me, and this was crazy, y'all. She said, who else get respect as a black woman but the mom? That is the only woman who gets respect in the black community, is the mammy. So while we talk so much stuff, that is the most world-renowned archetype of black women to date. And to be honest, we're embarrassed by it. There was this comment, and it was like, the disconnect between relationships today is men want to have the relationship that their grandfathers had, while women never want to live like their grandmothers. The reason why you have black women irrationally tearing this statue to shreds is because they're embarrassed by the fact that globally this reinforces that they are in some way not evolved from the mammy ancestral archetype to date. Okay? So understand that you have two totally different mindsets. We have totally two outlooks on this archetype that y'all are so, graciously, trashing. They don't like the mammy archetype. I can understand why. But I feel like that's only an identity problem for the ones who find themselves, closely associated to mammy-like behaviors. Or because for me, right?
Not to be messy, but I'm not shocked by the whole New York statue thing, because literally anytime there's a beautiful black model, they shave her head. Like, they shave her fucking head. They just don't want black women to be pretty. Like, I don't know. They just don't like to push that out. Like, even in fucking shows. Like, go watch some movies and you'll see it. They really love to push a specific narrative of what black women look like. And it's, yeah. Like, before people say like, well, this looks like a bunch of y'all's aunties and like all that, white women and Hispanic women are big too, but they're not gonna make them look weird in movies, in modeling, statues. They always look good. Anyways, that's my opinion on that. I want so much more for us. Like, I want us to be seen as just how beautiful and attractive, where we can just be that, just sexy as fuck, baddie. We don't have to, like, I don't know, have some deep story. Just be bad, like, be gorgeous, and yeah, and not with our head shaved.
Hi, people. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who has been so sweet and so kind and supportive in my comments. This is going to be my last time talking about the statue, and I know I've said that, like, but I don't want to burn out from the negative energy. Nothing I say is going to change the mind of people whose only value within themselves is the way they look and how they're perceived by others. The statue is not a permanent piece. It's only going to be there until, I think, either the 17th or the 7th of June. So y'all can stop with the think pieces, you can stop with the meltdowns, because that stress and that hate on your heart is just as bad as me being fat. I took time to write down what I actually wanted to say. So if you see me like looking kind of awkwardly to the side, it's because I'm reading my notes from my laptop. So, you don't hate the statue because it doesn't represent you. You hate it because it represents women who society does not consider attractive. Unfortunately, in our society, a lack of attractiveness is seen as a lack of humanity and morality. If the statue was made in the image of someone like Anouk Yai, a notable supermodel, it would be acceptable as representation of black women, even though a lot of us don't look like her. There's also a lot of black women who don't look like the statue in Times Square. It's pretty much impossible to represent everyone. I think that the issue a lot of people are having is based in the fact that appealing to desirability politics in America as an African American woman, you have to work for it. So when a statue is erected of a woman who does not fit into what's desirable by American standards, it is seen as a threat, a caricature, basically evil. The problem is that you think women who look like me, women who look like that statue in Times Square, should be unseen. We shouldn't be seen in art, movies, literature, or anything else that appeals to mainstream audiences, because we haven't done the work to be considered desirable. You think women like me deserve to be berated for not fitting a certain standard, and the only black women who deserve to be displayed and uplifted must assuage white minds so they forget all about the bad black women. And I'm not going to hold your sweaty little hand when I say this. Desirability politics will not save you. Going out of your way to tear down women that you do not deem beautiful will not save you. You do not have to like the statue by any means. There's plenty of art pieces that I don't like or I just don't understand. But to act like that statue is some sort of government psyop to make people hate black women is very telling. It's telling to me, and it's telling to the women who look like that statue.
Where are the skinny, light-skinned, pretty black women with bust downs? Why do we have to be the first group of people to allow fat, undressed nicely, sloppy, no bra wearing black women, dark skin, represent us? Nobody else. Let's other different types of body types represent them. Why do we have to do the right thing? Why can't we be like white people? Why can't we limit ourselves and limit what beauty means like white people do? It's not like for the longest time, skinny, light-skinned women have been our representation for blackness this whole time in the media and in beauty space. When are we going to represent the black women with perky boobs and big butts and small waists? We don't already do that. And don't forget the long hair. Remember that some black women have long hair. We don't all have short, nappy hair.
Let's talk about how a literal inanimate object, a statue, has the girlies in a tizzy. Some conventionally attractive women get real pressed when a woman who doesn't fit their little beauty standards gets attention. Like, why does it move you so badly? Why does it shake the room if you're so secure? Why do you feel the need to comment at all? Is it that deep? Or is your whole personality just built around being the pretty one? And now that the rules are shifting, you're realizing that being pretty isn't enough anymore. Cause baby, if someone you wouldn't look at in society twice is getting love and it bothers you, I'm sorry, but that's not confidence. That's insecurity in a crop top.
I've seen the videos, I've seen the comments, and I feel like I have to come on here and just explain myself, because one thing I want to say is I wasn't trying to dismiss an entire group of women that did feel represented by that, and I completely understand the women that did feel represented from that statue. And I totally hear you guys when you guys are saying, like, why do black women have to be the utmost gorgeous, the utmost anything to be accepted? That's not what I was trying to say. I was trying to bring light to the fact that, number one, I see differences in how white, Hispanic, Asian, every other race of women gets represented in society, and then how black women are represented in society. Rarely you're going to see a dark-skinned woman be the love interest, genuine sexual appeal. And I know we're trying to dismantle the patriarchy and say we don't care about men, but I'm just saying, like, we don't get those roles. And when we do get those roles, when we do get those things, it's literally either in like a slave movie or literally a light-skinned woman. Or we're always political. Everything about us is political, and I hate that for us. Same thing with the models with shaving their heads. I understand that some women just like to shave their heads, and I wasn't trying to say it's unattractive to have your head shaved. I was bald. My head was shaved when I lived in Ethiopia. A lot of people don't know, but I'm from Ethiopia. I was born there. I was adopted there. A lot of people are trying to, like, use that against me, and I think that's wrong, like, trying to mention my parents. But back to what I was saying, I just think that, like, why does everything we do have to be a political statement? Why can't we just exist in our sexiness, our beautifulness? And why is it when we are being represented, it has to be in a political way? Like, even that statue, the reason why the statue pissed me off originally was literally the fact that it was just a random statue. There was no historic anything behind it. It was just a random statue, and it was meant to, like, combat the two white guys in Times Square. Did any of us ask for that statue? Did any of us ask to be part of another political movement? Or we're always political. Everything about us is political, and I hate that for us.
Okay, I'm making this video not to add on to the hate train, because I actually really like this creator. I think she's beautiful. I like seeing some of her content. But I do think that she is a little misguided, and I think that she has a fundamental misunderstanding of, like, what it means to be black in America. So I just want to unpack some of the things that she said. Black people in entertainment and in popular media, since its inception in America, never got a say in how we were represented, right? I mean, minstrel shows were some of the most popular forms of media throughout American history. As a film student, it was incredibly poignant, shall I say, that the first ever film with sound, The Jazz Singer, is literally a story of a white man that does blackface to succeed in the jazz industry. And the first ever black woman to win an Oscar was Hattie McDaniel for essentially playing, like, the ultimate mammy in Gone with the Wind. So I am very familiar with the historical representation of black women in media and in entertainment. And I think that throughout time, black people have definitely been able to grab hold of these narratives and be able to provide holistic, nuanced, and non-stereotypical versions of black people that we get the privy of seeing in entertainment today, you know? But I think that that residual white supremacist propaganda still has a lot of y'all on a chokehold, because representation in media is not just about how a person looks, but it's also about providing nuanced depictions of said person. Representing dark-skinned, plus-size black women in media is not an inherently bad thing. It's about how you go about representing that person. And so when I saw people were equating that woman, like the statue, to a mammy, I was like, oh Lord, one day I hope my people will be free of this. So I'm basically showing everybody on the spectrum of this conversation just so we can have like a balanced approach. And I agree with pretty much all of them on most things, some less than others, of course. Y'all can pretty much figure that who out that is. But I do think that for the most part, I understand some women feeling emotionally attacked or like personally attacked because they are represented by the statue. This is their representation. And it's like, oh, well, y'all are kind of just trashing on it because it doesn't fit exactly what you think it should be. But don't let that, emotional response make you not understand like the macro picture of like desirability, the global front stage, and why respectability usually works in these types of scenarios anyway. If Black men understand respectability and they make sure that every time you see them, they're in a 2-piece suit, 5-piece suit, and a tie to combat whatever negative image they have going on with their stereotypes, then it's okay for Black women to say that it's about time, high time, that if we reject these stereotypes at some point or another. Now, what I would have actually been interested to really see is not just one Black woman representing it, like representing the whole community, as if one person could really do it. But I would have loved to see 3 or 4 or 5 Black women standing and protecting themselves and each other and representing everybody. Yup. And just us girls. I'm not saying you had to mix in everybody. I'm just saying I would have loved to see 3 or 4 different archetypes and none of them be alone to brace the criticism or the slander of the world by themselves. Because when I look at this statue, that's exactly what I see. Don't you see like the almost like the brace yourself, like I know what they're gonna say. It kind of just like induces that type of like anxiety just from criticism. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I think that the statue kind of looked tired, because I think the artist already knew what people were going to say about the statue and wanted to invoke that. So no, that does not mean like that bigger women do not deserve to be represented. But I don't think that they deserve to be our only representation out here. No ma'am, no ham, no turkey. I agree with what Anna Wren is saying. And I think an easy solution for that would have been to be able to have us represent our sisterhood again. Instead of everybody trying to be top dog and head HBIC and be the top girl to represent the womanhood space, I really think that if we do what real women do, which is embrace each other and accept community and the differences within the community instead of like trying to make everyone a carbon copy, we'd be able to have these discussions with a lot less emotional tone and then be able to come to real solutions that stem from logic and analytical advice. So, of course, that's my strategic spill here on the Strategic Feminine. No, don't take the statue down just because of that. But do learn to speak to the everyday Black woman nicer. Don't just, shove this off, because this statue represents a lot. TTs, co-workers, bus drivers, mama bears. You know what I'm saying? And of course, plus size women in their representation, plus size women in real life are valuable to society. So we can't do that. If we have an overall issue, right? If the issue that we're going to say is that we are not in control of our image and we are not getting paid from it, then I agree. Because I do believe that this Black man or non-Black, both of them, Ryan Coogler and Thomas J., they both were able to put out whatever narrative they wanted, use Black women as the majority of the audience base, use the virality of Black women's infamy, be able to play on our social pool in a lot of these media situations. They were able to benefit off of it, not give back to us in any direct way, and still get to, be the main people who sort of have some type of stock or, I guess, authority to say what Black women look like or what Black women represent or what types of Black women do what. You know what I'm saying? To have these types of conversations and not acknowledge the elephant in the room is that all of these different archetypes of Black women were not made by Black women. And Black women didn't benefit from this at all. And that's why I feel like part of us should have just ignored this, because we should have ignored this because we made this a viral topic. We made this global news, and we're also not going to see a dime from us being represented and for us tearing it down and making it global news and keeping it as global news. You know what I mean? So I think that's just a lot of my thoughts. I think it's exhausting to constantly have these conversations always and always and always. I think that we have to start looking at people as real people again. And to look at that statue and say it's monstrous just exposes the monster within you. You know what I mean? Quite lastly, then I'm actually done. The bigger black women, stop letting these men use you guys as the front line to defend against this statue being here. We did not benefit at all. Every time he makes a black man statue, it is fit. It is dressed. He be making sure that all his statues look real desirable. Anytime that Ryan Coogler is making movies, he's making sure that, the ideal Michael B. Jordan type is the desirable black man that's represented, pretty constantly and often, as much as he possibly can. So don't act like you don't understand what black women are talking about when we're talking amongst ourselves now and saying, hey, we would like to see a different type of black woman just be represented. You can use all of us, you can use some, but we have to stop, aiming for the jugular, which is stereotypes at the end of the day, and saying, because I know there would be some people that would say, okay, this, proves the point because there is a 60 to 70 to some people are even saying 80% obesity rate within black women. But even so, that's not 100%. There are still women out here who would also like to see themselves in media, and it's okay to acknowledge them for all of their beauties and attributes as well. And we can do that without hate from the other side as well. And there's no phobias needed, of course. So that's just been my overall thoughts about the strategic feminine here on YouTube. That's been my thoughts, my opinions. Y'all can say what y'all want to say in the comments. Leave all of your support down below. Of course, I always tell y'all, be good people, be holy people, read the word and spread the word. But of course, I'll be back.
Debate one.
All your statues look very African American, and as an African American, I like it. It's very inspirational. But is there a specific reason why?
You feel like you might see yourself. I hadn't seen this other places. I wanted to feel visible. I was asked that question at the beginning. I was asked, why do you only sculpt black people? And my answer was, I'm sculpting people. So for me, these are people. And they're not a label. And that's the whole point. The point is, what's inside here? Because it connects to all of us. We all think and we all feel, we love, we fear, we get angry sometimes. All these emotions that we all share are connected. But that is a really important question that you've asked, because there is more to it than that. And the reality is that we're not all judged the same. We don't all have the same experiences. So these works, in part, challenge those experiences and present an opportunity to be visible, for you to be able to see yourself in these works. That's really important to me. For me to see myself in these works, for my family to see themselves, but for also other people who might not look like these, to feel the connection, to feel the humanity, and to realize there's not that much difference.
If you were not an artist, but you had another job, what would you rather have that job be?
I wanted to be a physiotherapist when I was younger. I love how the body works, and I loved kind of looking at the anatomy of it, the structure of it, and that's probably what drew me towards making figures in the end. So maybe a physiotherapist, because you get to work with people, getting them mobile again, and you get to stay active, and you get to kind of see that journey of someone go from maybe a painful place to a place where they feel good about themselves.
For the sculpture there, how did you come up with the idea of making a casting of your hair?
So all these works, all these figures, the hands, they're looking from the outside in. They're looking at, what does it mean? If someone looks like this, then what do you think about them? What happens if you change where the eyes are? What happens if you change where someone's ears are? What happens if you change the hairstyle? What do we think about these people? So they're like experiments. Well, upstairs, Sonic Work is an experiment in looking at what happens if we take that away. What happens if we don't know what someone looks like from the outside? Do we still feel a connection to a human being? Do we still find an opportunity in that object, in that sculpture, to see ourselves or to see others, or to see an opportunity to recognize someone else. And so really, I think being an artist is often like playing a game where you challenge yourself. So how do I choose the poses? So often what I do is, when I'm walking around, I'm looking at people all the time. I'm observing how people stand and the kind of ways that makes me feel. And so when I see someone who's standing in a way that makes me stop, that makes me take notice, I tend to mark it down. I'll write it down. But with these ones particularly, I actually had people come from the open call. So I had models come, and I would walk with them. I'd say, okay, so we're going to stand on that spot. We're going to walk to this spot, and then we're going to stand. And it's very interesting to see how people stand, because if someone's watching you, it can feel quite awkward. You know, you get self-conscious. And I'm trying to create works which show people who aren't self-conscious, who feel more, they're not really thinking about anyone else watching them.
Is there a specific reason that the casting of your ear was a different color than all the normal?
The casting of Sonic work, the ear, I chose this raw bronze kind of color because it's doing a different thing. It's already removed the visible human element. And what I wanted to do is connect it more to art history. So there are some very famous sculptures throughout history which have been considered very important. And they're put in museums, they're put in great galleries, and we are taught to recognize them. We are taught to value them. I wanted to play with the idea of connecting it to that prestige. And so I used a material that kept on coming up in the images I was looking at in museums and in catalogs. So it looks like a raw bronze sculpture because it is, but it looks like that because I want people to kind of almost mistake it or think of it in the same way as the objects that we've been told to look up to.